Hi everyone. The video that I did for rounds 1 to 4 of block 2 is just an absolute disaster. So starting again. So I'm going to do rounds 1 and 2 in this video. So if you've already started part 3, I'll be covering stuff you've already kind of covered, because I'll be using different methods to start off with. So what we do know is that round 1 consists of 8 double crochets, and the suggested method to start in this case is to do a chain 4, join that into a ring, and then put the 8 double crochet into that. However, I'll show you a couple of other methods that you could use as well. So the first one is the magic circle, which a lot of people may have heard of. It might be a friend, it might not, but we'll just go over it again. So I tend to hold the tail in my left hand and wrap it around my 2 fingers, and as it comes over the top I kind of cross it over. So this is my working end here, and then I will use my hook to bring that through and create a false loop. And at this point you kind of need to pinch all that together and take your fingers away. And what you should have is 2 strands at this side here, your hook with its false loop on, and then the remainder of the circle at this side, which is 1 strand. Just going to adjust slightly. There. Okay, so what we're going to do initially is do a chain 1 to get us started and to get a reasonable loop on our hook. And what we're going to be doing is working the 8 double crochets across the double stranded part. So all you're doing is inserting your hook right into the centre of that big ring, collecting your yarn and doing a double crochet as normal. And if you think the loop's a bit too big to handle, just pull your little tail to tighten it up a touch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So it'll look like this when you've done all 8, and then all you need to do is pull your tail to create your ring. Now this gives you the flexibility of leaving a hole if you wish, or pulling tight to get rid of the hole as much as possible. This method's used quite a lot in amigurumi, or when you're making toys or starting hats, when you're working in spirals. But there are only so many stitches you can get into that centre where you'll be able to close it completely. I think when you're going beyond 10 stitches it becomes too difficult to close completely. But that's the magic ring, so we'll just undo that. The other method is called a sloppy slip knot. So we do our slip knot as usual, ensuring that the little tail is the one that closes the loop on the hook, and we chain 2. We're chaining 2 because we're going to work into the first chain, and the second one is our turning chain. So if we were putting trebles into the first chain, you would do a longer turning chain. You would have 3 turning chains, but we're only using doubles. So, and all we do is put 8 doubles into that very first chain. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So as you can see, this creates quite a big first chain, which is why it's important your small tail is the one that closes the hole or closes the slip knot at the beginning. And again, you have control over how big the hole is in the centre of your piece of work, and you can again completely close it up. Again, you're limited as to how many stitches you could get away with putting in there before you would still see daylight through there. So that's another method. The method in the pattern is to chain 4. Again, I'll still make sure that I always make sure that this loop closes with this, so if we get any holes at any point in that first stitch, it can always be closed up. And so I'm going to chain 4 as suggested. So 1, didn't want to tighten it up just yet. I've tightened it up by accident. Right, here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the first, and then I'll just tighten, and then I'm going to do the chain 1 at the beginning of round 1, but first of all I'm going to weave my tail in and get it out of the way. Let's do that now. So by using this method you create a nice ring to work into, but with this method you don't have the option to completely close the hole at all. You will always have a hole in the centre of the piece of work, and I think it's part of the pattern, to be fair, but I just thought I would show you that there are alternative ways out there of starting a ring. So we'll continue and we will put 8 double crochets into the centre. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. After this round we're finished with this colour, so I'm going to end here. We'll cut the end and I'll pull that tail through so I can finish off nice and neatly without a slip knot. So we thread our needle. Now this part here, this V here, which may look very tempting to go into, is the chain 1. And if we go into there, it's going to give us too many stitches. So we need to ignore the very first V that we see. It's the top of the double crochet that we're interested in. So if I give this a tug, it's not the best colour yarn to see, but there's a V here, which is the very first double crochet, and this V at the top, just off to the right, is the top of that stitch, and that's where we need to work into to ensure that we have the right number of stitches for the next round. We need to put the needle through both sides of that V, front to back. I'm not going to pull tight at this point, and then we come back on ourselves and go back down the centre of the very last double crochet that we did, like so. And then I'm going to pull that tight without, hopefully, because we need to work into this stitch here and this stitch here. So if we pull it too tight, we may not be able to do that. So we pull it tight so it pretty much disappears, but doesn't hinder your access to the 2 stitches that you're going to need. And I'm just going to come back up, first double crochet again, and then just weave this end around, because we're going to crochet into this in a moment. So I know it'll get anchored in. Again, always end on a downstroke and out the back, like so. So that's the first, well, the ring and the round 1 complete. So now if you're sticking to the pattern, you'll be joining in cream. I'm using white, and I appreciate that the background's white, so I'll use my hand as a bit of a means of showing you as best as possible what I'm doing. So it says with the cream, join in any stitch by working a chain. So we just go in there, pull up and do 1 chain, and then it says chain 3. 1, 2, 3. So we've got 4 chains in total here, and this is counting as our first double treble. Again, I'm using UK terms here, so just bear that in mind. Okay, now we need to do a double treble, which will wrap the yarn twice around our hook into the same stitch. So where we've joined, we're going to now insert our hook to complete this double treble, like so. And then we are chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitching again in exactly the same spot, and that's creating one petal, one large petal. Okay, now we need to slip stitch into the next stitch along, and we're being asked to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to put a treble in exactly the same place as our chain 3. Then we're chaining 3 again and slip stitching into exactly the same place, and then a slip stitch into the next stitch along, ready to commence the next petal. So we've now got a large petal and a shorter petal, and we're just going to repeat this action all the way around until we have 4 large petals and 4 small petals. So we're in the next stitch, ready to go. So we're chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, double treble into the same spot, so twice round your hook, insert up, through 2, through 2, through 2, chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch into exactly the same place. So everything is all in the same stitch. Okay, then we need to slip stitch into the next stitch along in preparation for our shorter petal. So this one we're chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, treble into the same spot, and then 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch again right back into the same stitch, like so. Now we've got 2 larger petals and 2 smaller petals, and we should have 4 stitches left to work into. So we've got 1 there, 2, 3, 4. So we're on track. Then we slip stitch into the next one in preparation for the next petal. This is a taller petal, so we're chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, double treble in the same stitch, chain 4, and slip stitch again in exactly the same stitch. Okay, slip stitch into the next stitch along in the previous round, ready for the next small stitch. So now we're chaining 3, 1, 2, 3. We're doing a treble in the center, and then a chain 3, all into the same stitch. Slip stitch in there, and then a slip stitch into the next stitch along from previous round in preparation for our next petal. So the next petal is a tall one, so we're chaining 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, double treble in exactly the same spot, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and again inserting the hook in exactly the same spot to do that anchoring slip stitch. So we've got 1 stitch left, so we need to slip stitch into there, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, treble in the same stitch, chain 3 again, and a slip stitch to anchor. And at this point I will cut my yarn because I'm going to weave my end in as I have in previous videos. But just before I do that, I'll show you what we have. So now we have, this is where we started. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tall petals and 1, 2, 3, 4 shorter petals. Okay, and our centre ring in the middle there. And so I'm just going to finish this off now. So I will thread that through there, and I'm just going to anchor it into that first petal. That's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. There isn't really anywhere to do a false stitch, so I'm just going to weave up and down these petals here to get my ends in. Now I know we're only going to be working in the top of the petals, so I need to weave in around at least 1 or 2 to make sure that the end is dealt with quite well. And I probably will still weave it in at the back of this because I know there aren't very many anchor points. So I'll go down here. As you can see, the weaving in doesn't really change the look so much. You can't really see it, and the only person who knows it's there is you. And so just to ensure, I'm just going to weave it through the back at the bottom of the petal. Like so. And then I'll just do the same with this end too. Just feed it up so I can weave it. It's not the longest tail this, so I might just weave it around one particular petal so I know it'll get anchored in at the top, and then weave it in along the bottom of the petal where it joins round one, just so I know it's nicely out of the way. Okay, so there we have, get the tails out of the way, rounds 1 and 2 of part 2. So I hope that was useful, and I'll crack on and do round 3 and 4. So thank you very much, happy hooking!